together a solid game plan. 2 weeks in a row. This is a big. But overall, I can't complain too much. We just need to be in the middle.
This defense performed at an exceptional level against very good teams.
This was our third win in a row. Very happy. Teams are tough.
All right, guys, it's episode 2, season 2 of Mile High Minute. I am here with my reoccurring hosts and good buddies. I have Steve the Believer over here. And down here we have Touchdown Todd. Gavin wasn't able to get online with us today, but maybe next week. He says it's always next week, but he's in Tampa Bay this week. So hopefully our boys can get him a win. Right, guys?
The heart is willing, but the schedule is not.
That is very, very true. After I saw the numbers that Baker put up this week, yeah, next week's game is gonna be it's gonna be rough. So I'm gonna try and have a positive attitude for it, but like that, we'll do our normal. Everybody knows we do the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to get right into it, like always. And normally, I kind of let the guys tell me what they think are the good, bad, and ugly. In this case, there really was only one thing that was somewhat good on our team. And for the good, I'm going to say that is our defense. So I'm running through these numbers, and it might not have looked like it at the time that we did it, guys, but this is what I was showing. So Cooper is third in the NFL in terms of his pass rush win rate at 35%. He is also fifth in his rush stop win rate over Espinoza, Max Crosby, those guys. So we got our defensive line was built up over the season. They did do that. And I think that's kind of playing out. I mean, who's someone else that's on here? Zach Allen is first in the NFL in his position. McGlinchey is the top 10 tackle. So we got that's offense. I know. So is there anything else that you saw as far as the defense was going that you like, that you think is doing well? Here's a stat that I saw. Did you know that we held Pittsburgh to 94 yards in the second half? And they only scored 3 points in 7 drives. So our defense, I think, is looking good. What's your guys' opinion?
I only wish Russell Wilson had been playing instead and had those numbers.
I think, the one thing, this is not a good season. This is not a good team. It's not being well run right now. But I think that the kudos for the defense for keeping us in the game, keeping it competitive, at least making the game watchable. We've still had a little bit of reason to tune in the second half, and that is expressly because of them. And yeah, there's been a few standout performances for sure, especially on the line. And Surtain had one of his rougher days of his career, but it still wasn't that big a deal. I think he gave up maybe 4 passes for 80 yards, 5 passes for 70 or 80 yards or something. So, and he had a great game week 1. So, there's some optimism there for sure.
Yeah, and I think I want to just double down on Cooper. This is, and not just because he's good, but I also think it shows you like the way we get to where we want to be. Is he's somebody that we picked up in a later round. He was a little bit of there were some questions about him. We brought him in. We've grown him, and now he's really good. And so that's what we want to see, especially given that we had pretty low draft capital for a few years. We want to be able to see that develop. And so he's evidence that this is the right way to do things, and it's really nice to see it paying off.
Yeah, I mean, also like DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach are having good games and everything too. And I think what's good about this defense is it's a younger defense. So it's going to be around for a while. It's going to be able to grow. My only concern is that I lost my train of thought. Is that they're going to get tired. They're going to get injured throughout the season because they're going to be the ones trying to keep us in the game and stuff like that. So that could kind of be an issue. I don't normally talk about penalties and things like that on these shows because it's kind of subjective. But I do think that holding call and pass interference on Surtain was splitting hairs, dude. Like, I know I say it in the bar whenever we're doing it. It's like they're gonna call that, and I know they're gonna call it, but it was bad. It was just I didn't agree with the calls. I don't think he actually held past 5 yards, and he wasn't holding when the ball got there. So I do think a couple of those calls were a little. I don't know if you guys saw Baron Browning's going to be out for indefinitely with an ankle injury. So,
which is bad news for him as he's coming up for contract renewal.
Yeah,
and obviously we're hoping as a team for him to be going to that next level, but just for him personally, that's got to be rough.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. And they're going to bring up Deandra Tillman off the practice squad. So we'll have somebody new in that position. They also signed Andrew Farmer to the practice squad. So then gonna kind of, I don't know where really to put this, but we'll have to talk about it, and maybe we'll talk about it towards the end. I'll just talk about it now. Did you guys read McGlinchey's out? He's on IR for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So,
although that does mean Palczewski, who has apparently some Chicago connections, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope he can, obviously he doesn't have the experience, but they saw a lot that they liked him the first season he was with us. He didn't quite, he obviously hasn't broken the starting roster, but I think there's a lot of potential there. So we'll see. He's going to be thrown in the fire. Hopefully it works out.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be tough losing McGlinchey, but I think we might need it. So, all right. Enough with the good, because I don't think there's
only so much of that to go around.
Especially with this team right now. We are going to hit into the bad. And for me, the biggest thing that would be bad is this. 202 yards of penalties on Sunday, and 124 of that was Denver. I think the rest of it was all what's his name on the Steelers, because wasn't there like 4 plays in a row he got called for holding?
Yeah.
But yeah, the penalties were bad. I mean, both cornerbacks, Riley Moss and PS2, got called for penalties. And let's talk about it, because we kind of started talking about it in the bar. How about that call against PJ Locke? The unnecessary roughness.
I don't even know if I saw it, honestly.
It was the one where it was a late hit.
Yeah, no, I remember the call, but I don't know if I ever saw the highlight of it. So was it flagrant or was it a joke call?
I think it was
borderline that should not have been called. Yeah,
borderline.
I mean, that's what
it might not have been called. I think it got called because they're just calling all of that. I definitely think it's one of those calls that I think, depending on whose player it was, you either wanted it or you didn't want it. Mm-hmm. Like the Steelers are going to say, yeah, it was a late hit and it was unnecessary and he could have pulled up. I don't know. I didn't think about pulling up that video so you could actually see it. But yeah, I mean, penalties are killing us. They really are killing us.
I don't know where this fits in the good or the bad or the ugly, but we're just incredibly poorly coached right now. And that's
we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in the ugly.
And that's, penalties are a byproduct of that, but we're, I didn't walk away thinking we were excessively penalized, I walked away thinking we were completely unprepared to play professional football. And so penalties are a side effect of that. But
keeping it to the penalties, if you look at it, we're the fourth most penalized team in the league right now. Now, granted, if two of those penalties don't happen, we're, much more middle of the pack, right? So, whether a call was deserved or not makes a bit of a difference there. But if you look at us the last few years, we've been fairly consistent on, having above average penalties. And I think coaching can be part of that. The other thing is we have a very young team. We're one of the youngest teams in the NFL. And so you're going to have more players that are inexperienced, maybe a little hot-headed, don't have, just need a little maturity. And so that will be a factor. The other thing is I don't know that we have good leadership in the locker room right now, just because, it is a younger team. We've parted ways with people like Justin Simmons. So that might be a factor too that's kind of making people a little more sloppy, a little more prone to those kinds of things.
I don't really feel.
Also, we got goals, so we get penalties from that automatically.
It didn't feel like
good for one holding penalty.
It didn't feel like any of our penalties were real big momentum changers. I guess maybe the PJ Locke one might have. Did it lead to points?
They got a first down out of it and ran out the clock, so it could have been a momentum.
Oh, at the end of the game, okay.
Yeah.
But I did. We didn't have penalties that killed drives. We didn't have penalties that necessarily, other than that last one that led to points. So it wasn't a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like one of those things where it's like the way we're playing right now, everything matters. So a penalty, it's hard to recover from because everything else isn't clicking, right? So it adds up.
Yep. All right. So we'll get to the last part of it, which is, as always, the ugly. And we're going to start with this topic because I think this topic informs everything else that we might talk about, which is coaching is everything. And Todd, you kind of mentioned it before, so I'll let you start. I mean,
well, I'm pretty discouraged by it, and I actually am not discouraged by Bo. I think he's handling himself pretty well. He's obviously making some mechanical mistakes and some judgment errors, but he does seem to have a general maturity on how to run the offense and get to the line on time, and I feel there's a good sense there. And obviously, it's too early to tell for him. But we are in the 19th game that Sean Payton has coached, and we certainly have had a lot of. We've certainly heard a lot of reasons for why Sean Payton isn't winning, but I think the clock is on for him. And I was thinking this week about, it's pretty, and this is this is something that I'm thinking about, is that very rarely does a coach who has a significant success with one team and wins Super Bowls, very rarely is he successful anywhere else. You can think about Jimmy Johnson at Miami. You can think about Bill Parcells in Dallas. Andy Reid is really the only one in recent memory, but he didn't win a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Doug Peterson is now with the Jaguars, and they're okay. But it might be hard to reestablish a culture. And I still connect Sean so much with the Saints and that whole thing that I'm just not sure that he's at the right place in his career and his age to really take this on. Obviously, he's got one more year. He's got this year and maybe one more. But I'm just not I'm not excited about him leading us personally. It feels like we've given him multiple opportunities to make his case, and we're as bad as we are right now as we have been in the last 5 years.
Steve?
Tina, I'm going to let you go first because I think I'm the outlier here.
I think I'm in the middle. I do agree with Todd. I think the coaching and the play calling has been pedantic, and rudimentary and not doing what they're needing to do. They're not getting the run going. They're not making decisions where, okay, Javonte may not be able to get open, so we need to put somebody else in. I mean, the fact that Bo Nix had 25 yards rushing as the QB and had more rushing yards than all of the rest of the running backs on our team at 20 yards says a lot about what's going on. So you don't get the run going. All right, now you're down to passing. Now you've literally taken half the field away from the team, and now they just have to rely on the pass. I think Sean needs to pull the training wheels off of Bo. I don't think the mistakes Bo's made in the games, this is where I agree with you, Todd. I don't think Bo is the problem. I really don't think Bo is the problem. He's learning and he's making rookie mistakes, which happens. But if you don't have a running game, you can't develop a rookie quarterback correctly so that he isn't making the interceptions and he isn't throwing balls the way that he throws. And if I can get it, did you guys see his press conference answer when they asked him about his interception?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it. It was like I threw it to the wrong person. Like, what else do you want me to say? I do think Sean probably can. But for me, the hook has been shortened on him. All right. We brought him in. He wanted his quarterback, his wide receivers, his guys everywhere else. He's been given all of that. For me, he's got a 1-2 year thing. And I'm going to segue this into Steve because I'm pretty sure I know where Steve's going to go. Yes, we're rebuilding. That is definitely true. But this is a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks need help. And it doesn't just come from the other 52 men on the team. It comes from, excuse me, I'm going to go bleep, 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 coaches, including your offensive coordinator. If Joe Lombardi was so perfect that he had to come from the Saints, make him earn his salary. That's why I'm done.
Okay. So I'm first going to start with this. It may be possible that Sean Payton's success is merely a side effect of Drew Brees' success. So there is that,
Right.
and we need to just sort of like keep that in mind in all of this
That's
conversation.
the monkey in the room.
But and who doesn't love a monkey in the room? I think us as Broncos fans have a long memory of what has been happening, right? That we started, this all goes back to the Super Bowl victory and has been downhill ever since. And Sean Payton, I think, somewhat suffers from the fact that all that crap has come before him and that we've had a coaching carousel, we've had a quarterback carousel, and we have had a lot of bad draft picks. So, like, you look at our team right now, the offensive line hasn't been doing its job. One of the reasons it hasn't been doing its job, our center is not very good. Why don't we have a good center? Because we couldn't afford to keep the previous center under contract, who was also not the greatest, but was certainly a better option because of the money spent on Wilson and all of that. We haven't had the draft capital to invest in the skill positions. We have Sutton, who's a holdover from previous generations. We got Reynolds, which is I think going to be a good pick up, and so far he's looked okay. Rest of it is young guys who we have drafted. Hopefully they shine, but like right now, we're still building that up. So a lot of the problems I think we have on the offense are because of that hangover of all the decisions that were made for them. Now, to the Payton part of this, I think that the upside of Payton is that he has a scheme that can be very effective if you have a quarterback and the players who can run it. And it is a complicated scheme, and it's built on lots of changes to the lineup and finding mismatches and making sure that you are constantly putting the defense under stress by having to match up against different things. And that is hard for a rookie quarterback to run. And you have to have the players that are going to create the mismatches for that to even make sense. And so I think what is happening right now is that Payton is trying to throw them into the deep end, have them play his scheme And I think it's been simplified to some extent. I think that's why some of the play calling looks boring. But you notice they're still shifting in and out a lot of players. So there's still his system going on. He's not simplifying that part of it. And that as they get more experience, that it will get better as the season goes on. But here's the thing, to the point about 1 to 2 years. I think Peyton probably has solidly into next season for this to pan out. And he's got to show something this season where it looks like it's running the right direction. And next season, it will be okay. Let's see this pay off. We've made the investment you want to make. You've got a whole new draft class bringing that into the picture. You've had some of the players you picked develop. Let's see what this starts to look like. And is there enough there to say, okay, we're going to play you out through this 5-year contract, or now it's reboot the whole thing. Fine, we tried it. You're gone. Nix isn't the starter anymore. We're going to go in again, and we're going to try something very different. So very long-winded thing, but I feel like we need context right now because it's all sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said. Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're learning was bringing Sean Payton on was a big risk because he's got this offense that's incredibly complicated. None of the team, we didn't have a whole lot of talent in the first place, and not only were we didn't have a lot of talent, but they're not the right people for his system. And if it doesn't work, then we've got talent for a system that we can't execute, and so the new coach is going to have to start all over again. Yeah. So, I mean, we're certainly all in on him, and I do not want him to be unsuccessful. I'd love for him to be successful, but I just sort of feel like, when I talk about, coming in as a second act, like Sean Payton has walked around the Broncos office like he's already won us the Super Bowl. And he is a sub 500 coach for us who couldn't make a Hall of Famer work in his system. And that's where we are right now. And now he's got a terrible team that he's designed with unproven quarterback. And I guess, this is where we are. This is what it is to be a Bronco fan.
And let's get real that all of that background that I was talking about, Peyton was our third choice for the coach, right? So let's be clear about that. And so he wasn't the one we most wanted. I think that for the health of this organization, it makes sense to stick with him through another year after this, just to basically go to the next coach and say, look, we're going to give you a chance to get this right. We're not going to immediately throw you out the door, but we'll see. We're in game 2, people. And game 3 probably is going to be good. Game 4, probably not. I'm hoping for Bo Nix's first touchdown this week. That's like my upside hope, but who knows?
Yeah, and remember too, and you pointed this out, and it's been pointed out by a lot of people, is the Steelers and the Seahawks have very good defenses. Mm-hmm. So we were playing against tough defenses. So the fact that we kept the Steelers to 13 points and 3 points in the second half, it shows you it's there. It's just not quite gelling just yet. So that's what I keep telling myself. So, all right. Well,
I think the one last thing is, I mean, I've been a Bronco fan since '77. I've never gone through a rebuild, and it's painful. And a rebuild is especially painful after you win a Super Bowl and then don't touch the playoffs for the next 7 seasons. This just feels like a long drought, like a huge chunk, a decade of our lives. It is.
I have all that much more respect for Lions fans.
Yeah, I mean that is the one thing.
Well, for all of them, for the Browns fans, for Vikings fans, for all these.
Hey, Chiefs fans suffered a long time before they got Mahomes.
Suffered a long time, and then they did it.
I grew up in a family of Bears fans. Mm-hmm. I saw this stuff happen all the time, and it's one thing that I try to be very cognizant with Bronco fans is because you're right. You guys have never been through a bad season, a bad section like this, because you pretty much had Bolin running the team and doing all of that. And that's the elephant or the gorilla in the room for everybody.
Nobody wants in the room.
We got a monkey. We got a zoo. But I think Bowen's medical condition and death and the trust exacerbated the problems we had with replacing Peyton and replacing our defense and getting coaches. I think the trust,
100%.
a lot of people kind of just wanted to just kind of put it under the rug and say it's not really affecting the team, but it did. What happened with the trust and some of the decisions that were made, because you're in a trust situation and you're in a beneficiary situation and you don't want anybody to say you made some crazy thing that lost the team money, etc., because that creates more lawsuits and all kinds of crap. But if anyone ever followed that stuff with the trust and what they were trying to do, it's craziness. I mean, that really, I think it really, really hurt the team for a long time.
And that's why
because it affected drafts, it affected money, it affected people. It was crazy.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to be patient right now. Like it's hard to be patient after so many years of this, but this season might suck. But if we come out of this with Bo Nix honestly proving one way or the other, either he's completely incapable or he's good, I'm happy.
Yeah.
The hard part figured out.
I would just say the other thing on that about what you just said, Tina, and where we are right now, is that the Walton Penners might turn out to be a great ownership group, but they walked in, they didn't know anything about football at a very critical moment. You had just traded for Russell, you were looking for Hackett, you were trying to make a decision on George Payton, you were hiring Nathaniel Hackett at the time. You had Ellis and Elway and whatever craziness was going on in that relationships. And so I think that the mistakes were compounded by their presence.
I do also think that the Walton Penner Group had the state of mind to go, we're business people. We're not football owners. So they brought in Condoleezza Rice. They brought in people who did have football knowledge.
Well,
at the bottom level.
Football knowledge. Lewis Hamilton has no football knowledge. I would say it's
he's part of the group. No,
well, right, but that's the whole thing.
It was a good distraction. Condoleezza Rice actually has a position within the Penner Walton Group, but I'm more talking about who they brought in as GM, not just Peyton, but the other people in the upper level, the people above Peyton. They have some football. They brought in people from the NFL. That's what I'm talking about. I can't remember their names right now because I didn't think we'd get into this.
Did Bolin have? I mean,
I'm saying the Walton Penners may get better, but I'm not saying I don't think they have acquitted themselves well the first 2 years. I don't think the organization has been particularly well run.
No, they're the wallet. They're essentially the wallet right now.
Yeah. So, but Bolin came in and he learned, and he kept. I mean, he walked in with Reeves and I think Elway was already on the team as well, so he was in a pretty good shot. I think the other thing, following up on what you were saying, Steve, is I feel like I've been patient, and so right. This is really the first. This is the first time ever, really, that I'm just impatient. I just, and I wasn't expecting. I was not expecting them to go too low, but I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see a rebuilding program, a game plan that made sense. Beatty ran for 16 yards and he never got the ball. And then Mims in week 1, got one pass, and Peyton says, we need to get it more to them. Well, Sean, that's what you're doing. That's if anyone wants to get the ball more to somebody, it's you. You can do that. And that's
you're going to be repeating yourself, Todd, when we get to overreaction.
One last thing. Since we're talking about ownership, I'll make this quick. When did Bolin buy the Broncos?
I think he did in '84. I think
the year after we got Elway.
The year after we got Elway and we had Dan Reeves. Yeah, no, I know. I'm not saying that the Walton Penners did anything wrong and they're not going to be a good ownership. What I'm saying is they didn't add value the first 2 years, and that's because they're inexperienced.
I think it's just good to have some context for like how we're so spoiled on some level as Broncos fans, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, well maybe it's gonna take a little while to figure it out, So we're learning.
Well, I think with the Walter and Penner group, because they bought the team, I mean, that was kind of, people don't realize like how fast that sale happened. That sale was happening because of the lawsuits and everything that were going on amongst the various Bolins and the trust and all of that. And they had to sell, the family had to sell because they couldn't afford the inheritance taxes. But I've also read, like, under the table, the NFL was telling them, you find somebody in the next year or we will make you sell. So it was it seemed like it was kind of a quick process. So, I mean, essentially, like I said, they were the wallet. They're the wallet right now. They're the ones that can afford to help out with some of these contracts because you guys know we've talked about this. Like the newest trend with contracts now is you push things to the 4-year mark. So you have to renegotiate in 4 years. It pushes up the contract for the players, but it puts all the back end money is where that money is. But the back end money doesn't count towards the cap. It's money that the Bolton Penners pay. So it's just a new way of doing things. They've got the money to do it. They've got the money to redo the entire stadium if they need to, because you're not getting money from the state anymore. You're going to have to pay for your own stadium. Okay. The one thing I wanted to say is that this is a stat that I kind of talked about it last year. These are Bo Nix's numbers for the last 2 games. He is higher, slightly, not by much, than Caleb Williams. So this is where I'm going through, and I watched all 45 minutes of Tim Jenkins' analysis of that game, and I'm telling you, there was a lot in there I was not happy about, but there was a lot in there that I see progress. A lot of people have been saying like Bo Nix can't read. He can read. He's a rookie and gets flustered and has people coming at him, so he throws the ball. It's going to take time. Be patient, guys. I know we were all really excited, but I think he can. But I think and where I'm going with this is like, Todd, I know you're a huge Caleb Williams fan. I think with people, when it comes to Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, is if you didn't want your team to pick this guy because you thought he was horrible, you're not happy right now. And those people are the loudest ones on social media. That's my point. This is not bad. I mean, a 51 QB rating is not great, but he has flashes there. All right, so our last segment we're going to do, I actually have 3 parts to this one. We're going to do overreaction versus reality. So you guys know what this is. I come up with crazy questions and you guys tell me whether you think this is an overreaction or something we should do. And you kind of all touched on the ones I was going to do. Maybe not necessarily saying anything, but I saw what you popped up there, Steve. So we're going to bench that one. We're going to say, we need to bench Javonte and let Beatty go.
We need an offensive line that creates holes. And when Beatty ran, he had multiple holes to choose from and got 16 yards. So if we have an offensive line that makes room, it'll all flow from there.
Todd?
I think we should go by committee. I will say that Javonte isn't having people bounce off him like he used to, but he is punishing. He is punishing anyone who tries to hit him still. So I still believe in Javonte. I don't think he'll ever be what he was before, but I think we have a good. We have 3 change of pace backs. We're missing a Stemme. I do think he would have been a breakout this year. We'll see what happens when he comes back. But not bench Javonte, but let's get let's diversify who's getting the ball and let's be more innovative in how to run him, because it's so bread and butter right now. It's nuts.
I agree. My thing is fix the offensive line. If the line isn't working right, it doesn't matter what you do on the run. You're going to start behind the scrimmage 2 yards and you're going to get stuffed. Now, maybe after this game, after Tampa, maybe hopefully we can start finding a few more holes. But I agree. I like the committee idea. Javonte does something different than McLaughlin does, who does something different than Estime, who does something different than Beatty. So I don't think we should bench Javonte. I mean, there's people saying that we should trade him now. I don't necessarily agree with that. That I think is
If you're going to bench him, why would trading him work out?
Agreed, because if he's so bad you want to bench him, nobody's going to want him, so he's going to be sitting on your bench anyways. So there's no point in trading him.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as I always have to remind myself, there are trolls and idiots all over social media. All right.
Oh, that's cool.
I think this one also goes to Todd's heart. It also goes to mine because I love this guy. I think he's done an amazing job with the new kickoff return. So, Mims needs more touches. Overreaction or reality?
I think we need to. I think this is a learning year. I think we need to know what we have with Mims. He's a second-year pro. Can he be a stud receiver for us or not?
Steve?
I feel like this is possibly a situational thing. It is the routes that Mims is well suited to are the ones that just aren't really working right now because our offensive line isn't really doing a good job holding up because we're, having to kind of rush things. So I suspect that will get better, but let's be honest, Mims was hired as a kick returner and a punt returner. That's what he's best at. I hope he can do more and that he can flash, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. My thing is that Cortland's not really breaking out. Reynolds is not breaking out. Valet is injured now. Dulcich can't seem to keep a ball in his hand. So at this point, I mean, Sean and Joe, whoever's the offensive coordinator, I can't remember his name now, Lombardi, whatever his freaking farting name is, change the offense. He didn't turn out great as a head coach, but at least when we had Adam Gase, he changed it for the people he had. He would make changes to his offense. He would move people around. He would try and work and find new ways of doing this. This idea, and I said it before, this is where I go with pedantic and rudimentary. It's, I have my list, I have my plays, I will stick with this, and I will pound this into the ground until I absolutely blow every fan's heads off. Change something. 2 games. You got to start changing shit. Make something work. I don't care.
I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with it's only 2 games. This is not like people, you need to get in a rhythm around what you're trying to do. And I think the problem we've had for this whole franchise is changing too frequently. If we're still doing this game 4, okay, yeah. But we're only 2 games in. Don't panic.
Except the wide receivers we need. And this is where I kind of get some of the people who are like, why did we trade Tim Patrick? Why did we get rid of, not saying why did we trade Judy. Judy needed to be gone. Judy was a cancer, as far as I'm concerned. But there's nobody there that's stepping up. So if there's no one stepping up, because it's not all Bo's fault, then maybe you do need to try something different. Franklin's not doing anything. And I'm sure you're right, Steve. This is Sean's way. He wants people to get used to the routes and get used to the way things are going. And again, what is this? Our 15th offensive coordinator in 10 years or something like that? So it changes, but it's not working.
Look at our depth chart. You got Cortland Sutton, who's getting up there. Josh Reynolds is a new acquisition and has actually been he's honestly been one of the better receivers we had.
Yep.
Valet, who's flashed, a new draft pick, but got injured. Jordan Humphrey has been kind of a solid contributor, but not really doing a lot. Flash. I mean, but it's that whole our roster is not great right now. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we definitely need to pick somebody up in free agency or in the draft. We need a better wide receiver. Something a better wide receiving core has to change. So, all right. And the last one. Peyton should be fired.
I mean, you know what I'm going to
It's
say.
Peyton. Are you
So,
talking
Todd,
about
what do you have
George?
to say?
I'm talking about the GM. Yeah, the GM should be fired.
Oh, Peyton. I was getting the wrong Peyton. I get my Peyton's mixed up. Peyton should be fired. Okay. I changed my
There was no
caption
Y
to
in that name, so that's Peyton. That's George.
Yeah, absolutely not. Honestly, he's been the best thing for this team. Period. He has
I agree.
helped build this roster. You look at Cooper, you look at all these players that he has drafted, and and you might say at some point, like, he has to step down from the GM role into some other role. I know that never happens, but hey. But like, the mistake that he made was the Wilson mistake, and at the time everybody thought it was a great move. So, and it hurt us. Don't get me wrong, but right now he's basically his role right now is to get us good draft picks. He's doing that. We'll see, but no.
Todd?
I mean, ironically, I don't think we have enough information yet. Again, and I was talking sort of about the overall craziness of 2 off seasons ago. I mean, obviously, Nathaniel Hackett will go down as one of the 5 worst hirings in history. I think there was an awful lot going on with Aaron Rodgers at that time, an awful lot, a lot more than we have. I don't think the story's fully been told on that. And from the season before, I believe there was a deal made in principle to trade Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos 3 years ago, and so he pulled out at the last minute, and nobody's ever spoken freely about it. But I mean, I'm so mixed on him I'm very mixed on him. But I'm not ready to give up on him yet. I think that there have been GMs that have been given a longer time and have ultimately been successful. I really 2-3 years ago, the late round draft picks, the free agent signings, he does find talent. I think the 2 trades he made, the Miller trade and the Chubb trade, were strong. I like the way he thinks. I think that he's handled Sean coming in and taking all the oxygen extraordinarily well. And my sense for him is sort of the other way from Peyton, from Sean. I think if George isn't successful here, he'll certainly go and be successful somewhere else. So I'd like to see it here.
Yeah, I agree. I do think. I mean, the draft classes he's had, most of his draft classes have panned out. I do think the Russell Wilson thing was because, like we talked about, we thought we were getting Hackett and Aaron, and it was something that we just had to make a decision on that, and we probably jumped the gun before we should have. Everything I've read, Todd, is that it wasn't that Aaron pulled out, it's that the Broncos pulled their offer. They got pretty close to where they were going to settle on a final number, and they got cold feet and said no. They weren't going to do it. So and then that's also panned out too, because he's only the second game in, and he's 1-1.
And remember, that was 3 years. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So he was with the Packers. I think it would have been very, very good for both Rodgers and the franchise. I think actually he wouldn't have gotten the trouble that he did. So it's unfortunate.
I mean, and I do think when it came to it, like I said, I mean, the Walton Penner group is kind of a wallet, but even they looked at what the Packers wanted essentially for him and went, no, we're not paying that. That's a little steep. And I think the steepness of that is going to affect the Jets down the line. If the Jets don't make a playoff run this year, they're going to be in our particular.
I think they will not.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make it either, but I think they're going to have issues with their. I'm having brain freeze right now. Their salary cap with some of the people that they have that they've gotten. They're going to be paying contracts and stuff. So
We know a little something about that.
yes, we do. I agree with you guys. I don't think Peyton should be fired at all. I think Peyton has done a lot with the tools he had at the time and the restrictions that he had in terms of salary cap and who would come and play for us, because that's something that's not talked about either, is that we have had a hard time bringing free agents in because the organization has been muddy for a while and people didn't want to come and play for us as far as free agents go. I do think we kind of turned that around when we got McGlinchey and we got Allen, because McGlinchey got offered more money to go to the Bears and he came to us instead. So we just got to keep working on that. I don't think he should be fired. I personally like him. I think he's a lightning rod for some people, like how Sean Payton can be a lightning rod and for others too. So, okay. Any last words you got? Anything you want to say?
On to Tampa
Be
Bay.
patient.
Todd, we didn't get a picture of it. We should have this weekend. Steve and I were going to do a picture of us on pool float saying, "Let's ride."
Yeah.
We did not do that.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I might have been a few beers in.
All those rum drinks in Tampa.
Yeah. So, but yep. Let's on to Tampa Bay, and maybe we can get Baker. I hope we can get Baker. But Tampa's a good team, so I'm keeping my
It'll be
expectations
interesting to see what
low.
happens.
Yeah, just in closing, I think my biggest surprise of the season so far is that the NFC South is the most competitive and interesting division in the NFL, and who would have thought that was going to happen? So,
I mean, who would think Almira Kamara could resurrect his career? Like what he did in that last game is just, it was craziness. I still say we should have gotten Carr.
I think we should have gotten Cousins.
Underrated.
I think we should have gotten Cousins when he left Washington.
Yeah. Yep. All right, guys.
Anyway.
Well, that's another episode of Mile High Minute, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.